Hello, Aquarius, and welcome to your November 2025 Tarot and Numerology reading plus detailed Vedic astrology forecast, including the November 5th full moon and the November 19th new moon. So, Aquarius, if you've been struggling with some financial limitations or financial difficulties, November brings some good news, especially in the second half of the month. A lot of activation in your career house, so you may see some real good career growth for you in this month of November, Aquarius. We'll get into that a little bit later. If you're new to sidereal astrology, a quick and easy way to know if you are an Aquarius sun sign is if your birthday is from February 13th to March 14th. You're going to have Aquarius sun sign in Vedic Sidereal Astrology. And if this seems weird to you because you're used to Western style astrology, just remember that the Western system is a symbolic system and the Vedic Sidereal zodiac is using accurate real-time data about the positions of the planets and stars. So you may find that the transits using this accurate real-time data give excellent predictions for how these subtle planetary energies affect you during this month of November. If you're new here, welcome to Anastasia Tarot and Vedic Astrology channel, where I help you navigate the cosmic currents and surf the planetary wavelengths with a little more ease and grace. This November 2025 Tarot and Astrology forecast is for Aquarius rising, Aquarius moon, and Aquarius sun as per Vedic Sidereal Astrology. We're going to start with your Tarot and Numerology reading, then get into your detailed astrological transits. Chapters are time-stamped in the description, so you can skip ahead if you like. And as always with collective readings, take what aligns and leave the rest behind. So now, Aquarius, let's get into your Tarot and Numerology. Okay, Aquarius, I am going to pull 6 cards for you. I'm going to choose 5 and then we'll pick the 6th one from Numerology. And just taking a moment to tune into your energy, Aquarius. So passing, the present, future, what to avoid, what to go toward. And then card number 6, we're going to pick by numerology. Okay, Aquarius, your final card is the Emperor, which was gotten by adding 7 plus 3 plus 21. I don't use the 2 court cards. So your numerology card is Emperor, which is 4. And now let's get into the reading. So this passing influence, Cavalier de Bâton, this could be, this is Knight of Wands. So for some Aquarians, this could be an actual person in your life, a young man who could be, very impulsive. It could even be a young woman. But this could be a young person who's really impulsive. So for some Aquarians, that could be, for older Aquarians, it could be a child, a grown child. And of course, for younger Aquarians, it could be a romantic interest. So this is in the passing influence, and if this isn't resonating as being a person who's either gone out of your life or has become more distant. So speaking on a more general level, this Knight of Wands does have to do with really wanting a change of pace, a change of scenery, really wanting to kind of move forward with things. And Aquarius, you know, your Lagna Lord Saturn is retrograde, and he has been retrograde in Pisces, you know, since July. So it could be a feeling of frustration too that you're experiencing, of really wanting to move forward but feeling maybe a little bit stuck by your retrograde Lagna Lord sitting there in your second house. And that brings us to this second card, the present circumstances, as the Seven of Coins, Seven of Pentacles, Seven of Coins. Now, Aquarius, that Saturn retrograde is happening over your second house. So for Aquarius moon, this is the tail end of your Sade cycle. But generally speaking, for all Aquarians, this does really speak to that second house activation. What is second house? That is finances. So again, looking at your chart, I'm assuming a lot of you Aquarians have been feeling some financial frustrations with Saturn in your second house and then retrograde in your second house. Now, this card works wonderfully with the World card. The World is Saturn's trump, so this is a card for your ruling planet, your Lagna Lord, Aquarius. And so this feeling of frustration, there could be, you know, current financial limitations, you know, dissatisfaction with your financial situation. However, Saturn is going out of retrograde November 27th. So this World card is really speaking to the end of that cycle. So this period that you may have been experiencing of, you know, slow economics, you know, income or financial resources maybe not being what you want them to be, this is coming to an end. So now the thing to remember with both this Seven of Coins card and Saturn itself is Saturn gives slow results. So still, even when Saturn goes out of retrograde, when Saturn goes direct at the end of the month, definitely going to be a big sigh of relief, the end of that cycle for you. But remember that growth will continue to be slow with Saturn in your second house, but at least when you're ending this retrograde cycle, that's really going to help you move forward, Aquarius. So now getting into what to avoid, what to lean into. All right, so this Three of Swords, what to avoid. Everyone wants to avoid the Three of Swords, right? The Three of Swords is heartbreak, sadness. And of course, everyone wants to everyone wants to avoid the Three of Swords. But taking this on a spiritual level, there's a profound lesson in this card and in the lesson of Saturn, your Lagna Lord, over your second house of finances. Aquarius, Saturn over the second house can be financially frustrating, but it invites you to consider the deeper question of what do you value. Now, of course, we all value money. Or, most of us, that's just, part of life on planet Earth right now. Unless you're living off-grid in a yurt somewhere, you're going to value money. You have to value money to survive in this modern world. But don't let that be all that you value, because there's heartbreak, right? If you value only money, then money problems bring heartbreak. So there's a deeper lesson with this Three of Swords here with regard to follow your joy, follow your bliss. And that's not always going to be the same as what brings in money. And I know any Aquarian creatives, you're going to probably have experienced that. You know, anyone who works in a creative field, you will sooner or later come to that question, right? Do I do this thing that's commercially acceptable, you know, that's going to bring me more income? Or do I do this thing that's really my soul expression? And so the advice here with this avoid the Three of Swords is right now with this cycle, follow your soul expression, right? The finances are slow, okay? The finances are slow right now, and Saturn wants you to follow your soul expression. So avoid sacrificing your bliss or your soul to try to get ahead with money, because that's blocked right now to an extent anyway. Follow your soul. Now, what to lean into? This Queen of Wands, Queen of Swords. So this is an interesting card, right? For some Aquarians, this is going to be a woman that you know. And, you know, this could be a woman as a Queen of Swords. She may have some good advice for you. And, you know, it may be difficult to hear, right? Queen of Swords advice, she doesn't mince words, right? She cuts to the chase. And, you know, and as a friend, Queen of Swords is that friend who can tell you what's really going on and be 100% honest, you know, not giving any fake niceness to spare your feelings. So for those Aquarians who have that type of Queen of Swords friend, this could be a friend or, you know, an advisor who's really going to give you some, you know, straight up advice. Now, that's not going to be every Aquarian, right? So for Aquarians, if that's not hitting, looking at a more global, universal interpretation of Queen of Swords, this is an aspect of yourself, Aquarius. What are swords? They are the mind. What is the queen? She manages her suit. So, Aquarius, this advice here with Queen of Swords, if she's not an actual person in your life, you know, a friend, mother, sister, you know, friend, relative, if she's not an actual person in your life, this is an aspect of yourself where you are managing your emotions. And Queen of Swords, right? She's armed with a sword. She cuts away everything that's superfluous to the situation. So Queen of Swords can really look at a situation, see it clearly, no rose-colored glasses, no blinders, no illusions. She can look at a situation, see it clearly, use that sword to cut away everything that is not absolutely necessary, and, you know, take some decisive action and, you know, use that sword to cut away whatever isn't necessary. And so for some Aquarians, she can also be setting boundaries, right? If there are people in your life right now who are maybe unnecessary and, you know, maybe even creating some blocks or obstacles, Queen of Swords definitely can manage setting boundaries and enforcing boundaries with people who may be transgressing those boundaries. Now, Aquarius, you have a lot of 10th house activation, especially going to the second part of the month. You have Mars is making this Ruchaka yoga, and the Emperor is associated with Mars. Sometimes people read him as the zodiac trump for Aries, but I often do just read him as the zodiac trump for Mars. And so you've got this wonderful Ruchaka yoga with Mars in your 10th house, Scorpio, Aquarius. So this yoga absolutely elevates your experience. Even if finances are growing slower or, than you want them to, or feeling more limited, there's definitely some career growth and cosmic support for career growth happening right now. And your personal power and your personal magnetism, again, the Emperor really expresses personal power, and especially in the 10th house. Mars does very well in that 10th house of career. So Aquarius, this Mars is really, this Emperor card, I really see that relating to this Ruchaka yoga that you have in your 10th house. Lean into your career in a way where you're working without lust of result. What do I mean by that? Work for the pure joy and experience of working. And again, if you don't get any joy from your work, if work causes you heartbreak and you're working only for the money, then that's time to grow your career in a different direction. Because, yes, every career, even the so-called dream career, right? There's a daily grind to it, making YouTube videos. I adore making YouTube videos, but there's a daily grind, and there's times where shiz goes wrong, and, it's not all fun and games, right? But the idea here with this Emperor, work for the sake of work. Work for the enjoyment you get from your work. Work from the sense of service. If if it feeds your soul, Aquarius, to serve other people, serve the planet, right? That's the dharma of your sign, is this, uplifting the globe, uplifting the world. And so because finances are blocked for most of the month of November, yet career is supercharged with this Mars. It's the lesson here, Aquarius, is work with no lust of result. Work for the joy and the service of working, and get yourself, if you're not in that place, then start doing some deep self-inquiry about how to get yourself to that place, because there's some really, between this Emperor card and the World card here, really strong energy and strong spiritual lessons for you about what you value and the nature of work. So Aquarius, if you enjoyed this, please do like and subscribe. And up next, we are going to get into your Vedic astrology horoscope, house by house, planet by planet. Hello, Aquarius friends, and welcome to your November 2025 horoscope. You've got some really lovely activations going on this month, Aquarius, with your 9th house and 10th house. We'll get into that in just a couple minutes. If you are new to Vedic astrology, welcome, and an easy way to know if you are an Aquarius sun sign is if your birthday is February 13th through March 14th. That means that you are Aquarius sun in the sidereal zodiac. That being said, this horoscope is for Aquarius rising, Aquarius moon, and Aquarius sun as per Vedic Sidereal Astrology. We're going to start with the chart for November 5th full moon to get a look at the beginning of the month, and then we'll shift over to the November 19th new moon to see how the energy changes throughout the month and how the month closes out. So one of the first things that you'll notice, Aquarius, is you have this activation in your 9th house. Sun is in your 9th house and Venus is in Libra in your 9th house. So this is a nice, strong Venus. Sun in the ninth house is going to put your attention on religion, philosophy, higher learning, higher education. This can be a great asterism for Aquarius students, okay, with, with Sun and then, Venus in domicile in the ninth. I expect things should be going very well for your studies, Aquarius students, and, you may even meet a romantic interest either through your studies, through your school, or through some kind of, religious group, religious community, spiritual community that you participate in. For some Aquarians, this ninth house activation can bring travel, long distance travel, and it may be, again, travel having to do with education or spirituality. So that's some Aquarians, not all. The other thing you've got going on, Aquarius, is with this sixth house activation and ninth house activation, some Aquarians may find themselves in, legal issues going on. It could be a lawsuit or legal negotiations. And, of course, I hope that's not you, but, that's a fact of life. It happens for some of us. Jupiter being in the sixth house, exalted in Cancer, this is actually quite nice. If you do find yourself in the unfortunate position of being involved in legal negotiations or lawsuits, with this Jupiter in the sixth house and Sun and Venus in the ninth house, things may go in your favor. Nobody wants to be in a lawsuit, but if I had to be in a lawsuit, I would definitely want Jupiter in my sixth and Sun and Venus in my ninth. That is certainly going to help you out and, support success. And of course, for Aquarians who actually work in the legal field, obviously that's not all of you, but Aquarians who work in the legal field, this could be a time of career growth for you with Jupiter exalted in your sixth house and Sun and Venus in your ninth house. So legal field could do very well during this transit. And the other reason I say that is you have this 10th house activation with Mars and Mercury in your 10th house. Now, one really positive thing that you've got going on here is Mars is in domicile. Mars really likes being in Scorpio. That's his home house. And this is happening in your 10th house of career. Mars does well in the 10th house anyway, but Mars in Scorpio in the 10th house is creating a Ruchaka yoga for you, Aquarius. So this is really going to elevate your leadership factor in your career, especially if you do work, if you're self-employed or if you work in any kind of executive capacity. Your leadership abilities are really supercharged by this Ruchaka yoga, and your powers of leadership and just your vitality for your career, your leadership, your vitality. Ruchaka yoga is one who shines. So you can really shine in the career and leadership arena at this time. Now, Aquarius, you've had Saturn on your second house for quite some time, and he's going to continue there for quite some time. So this may be feeling frustrating, right? You've got this great 10th house activation going on, and yet the earnings may not be what you want them to be. You still may be feeling very restricted financially, especially while Saturn is retrograde. This retrograde is going to end at the end of the month. We'll get into a little bit more what that means a little bit later on in the video, but just be aware you've got some good activation, good energy from your career is coming from the month of November. It still may be somewhat inhibited in terms of actual, money income may not be where you want it to be, and you may find that you really still need to be on a pretty tight budget with Saturn on the second house. That's just a way of life for Saturn on your second house. You're be on a budget. That's just the way it is. However, with Jupiter in this sixth house, what's the sixth house, right? That's the daily grind of your career, you know, your day-to-day work life and your service. With Jupiter on the sixth house, that may alleviate some of this. Jupiter is such a benefic planet, and Jupiter is casting his trine drishti onto your second house. So you may be getting some relief if finances have been really, really tight. You may be getting some relief from this benefic Jupiter casting his gaze there. And then again, you know, by December, when this retrograde will have ended, you may find some more forward momentum is happening with your finances. Now, we'll just touch upon this briefly. Rahu is continuing in your first house. So again, you know, with Rahu in the first and Ketu in the seventh, very much this underlying theme of who are you in relationship with others. That's an underlying theme that's going to continue throughout the rest of this year. And of course, you know, Ketu in the seventh house, it could have brought some disruption to your relationships, you know, and that could go either way. For some Aquarians, it could be a sudden breakup. For other Aquarians, it could be suddenly meeting someone. It really depends on your personal chart and, you know, what kind of planet Ketu is for you in your personal chart. But it's, you know, definitely they are activating this, you know, this karmic axis is activating yourself and your relationships in a deep way. Now, we've touched upon this beginning of the month, so let's fast forward to the latter part of the month because some energies really shift and we want to get a look at that. Okay, Aquarius, so as you can see by this latter part of the month, super 10th house activation, okay? You have got a lot going on in your 10th house. So Aquarius, this can actually really be a time of career growth for you. It may not be a time of income growth, but it's definitely going to be a time of career growth because you have all these planets are activating your 10th house of career, public reputation, and this is supported by Jupiter in your house of you know, daily grind, daily work. Now, one thing to be aware of is, you know, the whole second half of November, you've got 3 planets in retrograde. You've got Mercury in retrograde, you've got Saturn in retrograde, and you've got Jupiter in retrograde. So this latter half of November, not a good time to start any new projects, you know, especially don't start new work projects with Mercury in retrograde. By December, Mercury and Saturn will both have come out of retrograde. So, you know, if you need to start something pretty soon, do whatever you can to, you know, kind of delay it until December because it can be quite frustrating to try to launch new projects with 3 planets in retrograde. You know, that can just be frustrating. But getting into this career house activation, again, you've got subtle support from Venus in Libra in the 9th house. That really supports bringing an ethical viewpoint to your career. And, you know, I'm sure you probably already, you know, are ethical in your career, Aquarius. I hope you are, and, you know, most Aquarians are. But this, again, this just really highlights that, and it continues to be good for Aquarian students. Now, with this Jupiter in your 6th house, Again, this will support Aquarians, especially in the medical field, in the legal field. Those two careers are getting really supported by this 6th house Jupiter activation. The Jupiter in Cancer is going to support all of this 10th house activity for, Aquarians in many different careers. The thing to keep in mind is service. 6th house is the house of service. So some of your career growth is definitely going to be in proportion to how much you're embracing this idea of service and being of service either to your customers, your clients, or if you work in a larger organization, how are you of service to the organization itself? And, this Jupiter retrograde, I believe it went retrograde on November 11th. Jupiter is such a benefic planet that this retrograde may actually work in your favor. Retrogrades can tend to be frustrating, right? Because they're do-overs. But with Jupiter being exalted and being a benefic planet, this actually could be some beneficial do-overs. Like maybe you get to do over your daily schedule and you end up with a better schedule that's, helping you maintain better health, better work-life balance. The main thing with Jupiter in the 6th house is, do pay attention to your kids' health. If your kids have any health problems, definitely get that looked at, which you probably do anyway, but sometimes it's more important than others. So definitely with Jupiter in the 6th house, pay attention to your children's health and really support their health. And then going back to this, career aspect, you may get some do-overs. It could be a project or a job or something like that you weren't able to actualize the first time it came around, but now you're getting a do-over. It comes around again and you're able to take advantage of that opportunity. So Jupiter retrograde can actually have good results. And then again, with this, your leadership with both Sun and Mars in your 10th house, Scorpio. Mars is strong. It's forming that Ruchaka yoga. I don't know if I mentioned that in the previous half. Your leadership powers are really supercharged here, Aquarius, and you've definitely got your attention is on your career. Now, with Mercury retrograde, that is a little bit complex, in as far as communication and your public reputation and how you're communicating with people. You may find that you have to do things over. And, again, it could be something as minor as, an email or message gets lost and you have to resend it. But it also could be a little bit more frustrating, like, you think you're expressing yourself really clearly, but the other person just isn't understanding. They're not getting it. So you need to explain it to them differently or explain it to them in a different way.